Hello parents. Thank you for taking time to listen to this presentation. That is a replacement for our in-person induction for GCSE. Now, transition from one key stage to another is very difficult, even if your daughter is staying in the same school. I'm sure your daughter has already heard different conversations in classrooms. The subject content has become more challenging, and there is a sense of purpose now at GCSE. She would have also experienced, hopefully, a change in the level of independence that is expected of her. And I hope she's feeling that she's prepared for the next 18 months. Now, the purpose of this presentation is to help you to support your daughter and to understand what is being expected of her and to be confident enough to be able to talk to her about it. We will be covering some issues that are also quite prevalent now she's getting older. So I'm going to pass you over to Mr. Cowling, who's the Director of Key Stage 4.
Good evening. I want to start by saying what a pleasure it's been to welcome your daughters into Key Stage 4 over the last few weeks. This year group, the current Year 10, are a very special year group in school. I've spoken before about them being a pioneering year group because they're the first year group with 210 students, and it's been really lovely to begin to get to know your daughters. They're a wonderful collection of individuals with unique gifts who bring so much to the school, and I know that they're going to be very successful over the next 2 years. I want to spend a few minutes just setting the scene about what comes next, about the challenges that they're going to face, but how together we can ensure that they are successful. I want to start with a little bit of context. In the years just before the pandemic, so between 2015 and 2019, there were quite significant changes to GCSEs. The content that we deliver at GCSE changed in many subject areas. Essentially, harder topics were introduced. It's also the case that the emphasis placed on coursework was reduced in many subjects. Now, those two changes, when you see them on screen, can look a little bit intimidating. But what I want to stress is that these changes have been experienced in a very positive way in this school. Courses which allow students to think deeply about challenging and interesting material, and that's what the new GCSE courses are. Those courses are very well suited to the students in this school, and the experience that they've had at Key Stage 3 has prepared them very effectively for that. Our departments have worked hard to introduce those new courses, and we've seen real success with them, students achieving across departmental areas. So although there have been changes in the landscape at Key Stage 4, we're very confident that your daughters are going to be successful with these new courses. There are a number of ways in which we can work together to ensure that they are successful. I've spoken recently to quite a number of Year 12 students to find out what they would want to share with us about being successful at Key Stage 4. And there were three big themes that came out of their comments. The first thing that they wanted to emphasise was the importance of looking after well-being. The third comment up on screen, look after yourself, really encapsulates that. And not just look after yourself, but find enjoyment as well. It's easy to say those things, but we recognise that our young people are growing up in a complicated world. How is it that we can ensure that they do experience a high level of well-being during Key Stage 4? I don't have easy answers to that, but I'm just going to signpost a few things that we find helpful in school. The first thing that you can see on screen are the 5 ways to well-being, a tool that we use regularly in school that your daughters will have seen in their PACE lessons. And it suggests 5 different things that are part of a balanced life, 5 things that if we manage to achieve in our lives, whether we're an adult or whether we're a student at Key Stage 4, then we find our well-being is enhanced. I think this is a useful tool. It's something to use with your daughters to make sure that she's got that balance in her life, that she's being active, she's taking exercise, she's connecting with her friends. She's continuing to keep learning. Well, of course, she'll keep learning in school, but maybe she wants to learn skills beyond the taught curriculum. That she's continuing to give and find value in service to others. Again, we've seen many students in this year group doing that in an exemplary way. And that also she finds some time just to take notice, to be mindful of her life and the good things in her life. The link that you can see on the screen is to our pastoral care and wellbeing page. And this is also a very useful resource that we use in school all the time with the students, that we will talk about with them in PACE lessons. It gives a very wide range of links to other organisations who can be helpful with particular challenges that may emerge, and also it just gives general wellbeing advice. And I'd strongly suggest that you do have a look at that page if you haven't encountered it already. Have a look at some of the suggestions and links that are there, and then maybe bookmark that link, because it's a useful page to be able to come back to as the need arises. I want to talk particularly about the topic of internet safety under this heading of wellbeing. We all recognise that in this last 18 months, there's been a dramatic increase in our use of technology. That's true in school, it's true across our lives. And we know that's brought significant benefits. It's allowed us to remain connected. During school closure earlier this year, it allowed us all to keep working and learning. But we know that this increased use of technology also creates some challenges for our young people. We're doing a lot of work with them in school to explore online safety, but I want to mention again the UK Safer Internet Centre, who provide some excellent advice about how we can keep safe online and how we can keep our young people safe online. The specific link that I've put up on screen is to their parents and carers page. There are also links that are appropriate for students there as well. And again, I'd strongly encourage you to have a look. So wellbeing is the first step to success at Key Stage 4. The second group of comments that Year 12 shared with me were about learning. And all of them acknowledged that one of the challenges at Key Stage 4 is that there is a lot to learn, a lot of detail that young people are going to need to get into their memories over this next 2 years. We know that the most effective way in which your daughters can commit that content to memory is if they work at it little and often, if they keep going back to material, checking their understanding, testing themselves on it, and in that way consolidating their understanding. And so there are some specific things that we would be encouraging your daughter to do, and that her teachers will be emphasising as they set work and as they deliver lessons. It's really helpful if students do make sure that they're building up a good set of notes as they go along. Support your daughter perhaps in making sure she's got good organisational practice in place, that she's got a file for a subject if a file is what's needed, that she's got her notes there. Many subjects will set regular tests in school, and your daughter's teachers will be talking to her about the importance of these. Their value lies not in assessing where your daughter is in terms of her performance. That's going to be something that the final GCSEs will do. The purpose of these tests is just to get her in the habit of learning, to get her in the habit of going back to content, and that's why it's important that she takes those seriously and uses them as an opportunity. And then I'm sure many of your daughter's teachers will be talking about self-testing, that as your daughter begins to approach Year 10 exams, and of course in Year 11, the mocks and the final exams, that she gets in the habit of testing herself, checking her understanding, and so making sure that she's committing information to memory. We've talked about wellbeing, we've talked about learning, and then the third group of comments from Year 12 surrounded the topic of support. You can see that Year 12 really appreciated the support they received from their families. One student was just very clear. you're going to do better at Key Stage 4 if you talk to your family. You can also see that many students valued the support of their parents as they were preparing, as they were getting work done. And we know that this year group are so lucky to have such supportive families behind them. Your support really does matter to your daughter over these 2 years. We know that at Key Stage 4, our young people are beginning to grow as independent people. We want that change to happen. We want them to be ready to embrace adulthood, but your support also really matters during these 2 years. I want to speak just quickly now about some other things connected with Key Stage 4, and one of these is the way in which GCSEs are graded. As part of the changes that I spoke about a few moments ago, a new system of grading was introduced, and you'll be aware that your daughter will receive a numerical grade at the end of these years, whereas up until a few years ago, we were awarding letter grades to GCSEs. Again, I'm aware that many of you will be very familiar with these numerical grades, but I think it's just useful to look at how they compare to the old letter grades, if that is the system with which you are more familiar. So you can see that there are 2 grades, a grade 4 and a grade 5, that roughly align with the old grade C. A grade 4 is the grade that's awarded to a student who on the old system was working towards the bottom end of a grade C. A grade 5 is awarded to a student who is at the upper end of a C or the lower end of a B. And what that means is that both a grade 4 and a grade 5 are regarded as a pass in the numerical system. 4 as a pass, 5 as a stronger pass, but they're both regarded as pass grades. We've then got a grade 6, which roughly corresponds to work that would have been awarded a strong B in the old system. Grade 7 replaces the old A, and then we've got grades 8 and 9 that overlap roughly with the old A star, but grade 9 rewarding performance of a higher standard than was required for an A star grade. And I think it's just important to signal that where once we had 4 letter grades, we've now got 6 numerical grades. And that means that there's a slightly wider range of outcomes that are open to students, but all of those grades are pass grades, and all of them will allow students to make progress onto courses at school and at college at the end of Key Stage 4. The final thing I want to talk about is a routine thing, and it's about absence. And we know that this has been very challenging during the pandemic, and it continues to be challenging because of COVID. We know that as parents, you're working very hard to encourage your daughters to attend, and we want to thank you for that because it really does matter. It's a very important predictor of how students will do at the end of Key Stage 4. I just want to offer all of us a reminder about the processes for when your daughter is absent, because obviously over the last year we've had to make adaptations. If your daughter is absent and it's through illness that is not COVID related, then please can we ask you that you report her absent by emailing the absence email address. And then if she's absent because she's unwell, we would ask that essentially she uses that time to rest and recover. If she is able to do some work, then she should ask a friend to collect work for her from her lessons, and then she can catch up with that. But we do recognise that if students are unwell, then what they need to be doing is resting and recovering. That's the important priority for them. A slightly different process works if the absence is COVID related. If your daughter is absent because she either has COVID or she has COVID symptoms, then it's important that you report her absent by emailing the COVID email address. And at that point, you will receive an email explaining the next steps, including the remote provision that we offer. Remote provision is just offered for COVID absence. That is a legal requirement. We do it in that way. And when you email that COVID email address, that will enable us to send you the right information and for your daughter to work if she is able to, because we recognise that a student who is away for COVID related reasons is often away for a long period of time, and for some of that time may very much be able to get on and do some work. I'm very much looking forward to continuing to work with your daughters over the next few months. We've been so impressed by the start that they've made. Please do be in touch if there are ways in which we can work together to support them even better.
Good evening. I want to start by saying how impressed I've been with your daughters over the past half term. They have shown an incredibly mature approach to their GCSE courses in terms of getting organised and being inquisitive in lessons. There is no doubt that the past 2 years have been incredibly tough on this cohort, and at times there has been little for them to look forward to. This year has allowed the return of many school clubs, and I'm so pleased to see that Year 10 students have been getting stuck in and contributing to the wider school community. I've been particularly impressed with their endeavours in the recent Hyde Cup competition and the fact that most form groups are planning charity events to help those less fortunate than themselves. I'm confident that if your daughter continues the way that she has started their journey in Key Stage 4, they will certainly achieve great things. When your daughter first joined us in Year 7, we stressed the importance of the role of the form tutor throughout their journey in school. Many of our form tutors in Year 10 have remained the same, and I know that they have excellent relationships with your daughters. I am pleased to welcome Miss Holes, Miss Blogg and Miss Seminyak to the team this year, and can already see the positive impact they are having with 10E, 10F and 10D. As part of our Form Time programme this year, form tutors will work closely with their tutees to ensure that they have the skills and strategies to manage their health and well-being, as we all know that GCSE courses can have peaks and troughs in their demands on time and workload. For some students, this can be incredibly overwhelming, and we want to ensure that our students are resilient and overcome these difficult times over the next 2 years. Our intention is to cover topics that are relevant to the students at this phase of their education. For example, how to get organised, how to create a positive working environment, how to manage time, developing a growth mindset, and revision strategies. I hope that your daughter will be open to talking and taking on the advice given in these sessions, and remember that it may take some time to establish what works for them. As with any school year, if you are concerned about your daughter, her form tutor should be the first point of call to discuss any issues. Similarly, form tutors will be conducting academic monitoring conversations with students each week, and if we have any worries, we will ensure that we communicate these with you. In addition to form time, we will also continue our PHCSE work with students as part of our PACE programme. Mr. Cowlin touched upon the importance of well-being and looking after oneself earlier in this presentation, and there will be a greater emphasis on this academic year. I know that the students in this cohort are incredibly passionate about social justice and the events that have happened recently in the news. For example, the events regarding Sarah Everard did affect our students significantly. So we have responded to this and included topics in PACE around protective behaviours, keeping safe, county lines, and what to do if you experience harassment. The lion's share of our work in PACE this year will be around careers. A career is not a job. It is a journey through education, training and work. Things have changed in the world of employment. A job for life is rare. On average, people have 10 or more jobs and at least one change in occupation over the course of their career. Therefore, our role in careers guidance is not to help them decide what job they want to do. It is to equip them with the skills and knowledge to be able to plan, research and manage their own careers, as the majority of their career will happen after they leave Watford Girls. On the slide, you will be able to see how we help students prepare for this important aspect of getting older. Taking GCSEs is a big step in a teenager's development. They are almost the oldest children in the school. They're working towards actual qualifications which will affect decisions they make later about their future, and they're beginning to feel grown up. This is an ideal time for you to help them form good habits that will set them up for the future, not only in terms of lifestyle, but also in helping them discover which ways of learning suit them most and which environments limit them versus which could help them flourish. Over the next few years, your daughter may need reminding that they need to get enough sleep. Sleep is essential for good health. Teenagers need a lot of sleep. Despite what they may say to you, 8 to 10 hours a night is ideal. Tempting though it may be for them to revise into the small hours, they'll be much better off putting work aside and settling down for an early night. They may also need encouragement to eat the right foods. Food is fuel for the body, so making sure they eat at regular intervals with plenty of healthy ingredients is vital. Try to ensure they have a healthy breakfast before leaving the house. Fruit is always a good option if they're on the go. Alongside eating the right foods, they also need to be drinking enough water. The teenage body is made up of around 60% water. Not drinking enough water reduces productivity, both mentally and physically, and symptoms can include tiredness, confusion, and reduced energy levels, all of which result in poor retention of subject knowledge and content. Creating the right environment to help your child study for their GCSEs is key. Help them find a calm space to revise. Things to consider are noise levels, lighting, the ability to store papers tidily, not being disturbed by family members. Different people have different needs. For some, background music is helpful to studying. For others, it's a distraction. Different locations can help some children, so rather than always working in their bedroom, they may like to use the dining room table or the living area from time to time. Give your child space to work out what works best for them, which may not necessarily be the thing that works for you. If there's not a good place to revise at home, maybe you could suggest that they could go to homework club, a local library, a coffee shop, or even work at a friend's house. Taking breaks. It's vital for effective study that your child takes regular breaks, both long and short, without feeling guilty. Creating regular activities at regular times of the week will help your daughter take breaks from their academic work, as well as improve their time management skills. It's important that your daughter continues participating in hobbies and interests alongside their studies. Exercise and getting fresh air are beneficial to mind and body and helps reduce overall stress and help spark creativity. From time to time, we all need to take a break. When things get really tough, it can sometimes be helpful to step away from the problem and revisit it with a calm mind and renewed outlook rather than struggle on. If, on occasion, your daughter doesn't stick rigidly to their weekly timetable or revision schedule, don't worry, they're probably doing enough to stay on track. If you don't think they are, and the school agrees, it might be time for us to work together to help them refocus and achieve their full potential. Lastly, I wanted to draw your attention to a local organisation called Supporting Links. They are a social enterprise providing parenting support through courses, workshops and one-to-one mentoring of parents and children through Hertfordshire and the surrounding area. They offer support in a range of topics that affect young people. Current workshops that may be relevant for you and your daughter are listed in the slide. Please take a look at their website. Thank you so much for listening.
And that's it from us. Thank you so much for spending the time to listen to the whole of this presentation. If you are about to go on a half-term break, I hope you have safe travels, and I look forward to seeing your daughters back in school in November. Good night.